So my connection to Myriad genetics goes back to 1976. My connection to Myriad genetics actually goes back to my grandmother, or as we like to say in the South, my mama. Mary Nolan Cantrell was the matriarch to my very large, very loud, very rambunctious family down in New Orleans, Louisiana. She was the wife of Joseph Cantrell. She was the mother of 6 children, 5 girls and 1 boy. And did I mention we were a good Catholic family too? She has 16 grandchildren, and to date she has 14 great-grandchildren. She cooked the best fried chicken and mashed potatoes you've ever eaten. She loved to play Scrabble, bingo, and Yahtzee. And I remember loving the opportunity to go spend the night at her house when I was a kid, because she let us stay up as late as we wanted to. And even after Papa went to sleep, she would lay a dish towel down on the kitchen table for us to roll the dice so that we wouldn't wake him up. And we got to play well into the night with Mama. And she was my most favorite person in the whole wide world. And in 1976, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. She was only 56 years old, and I was only 3. So I grew up with a grandmother who had breast cancer. Upon diagnosis, she immediately, and I think so bravely, decided to have a single mastectomy. She left the house one day and came home a couple days later after surgery with a scar across her chest and a fake boob in her bra. I remember vividly myself and all my cousins playing toss with it across the room. Of course, when she wasn't wearing it, but we would laugh at how soft and squishy it was. I've even been told about a time that I offered Mama some advice about her scar. She was never ashamed or embarrassed to show it to us. And at 3 years old, I told her, "Don't worry, Mama, it'll grow back." And until the day she died, I never heard her retell that story without tears welling up in her eyes. Because of my grandmother's diagnosis, I knew and accepted, although fearfully, the fact that I and my mom and her sisters and my sister and my cousins were at high risk for breast cancer. Because of my grandmother's diagnosis, the term breast cancer alone was a phrase that was as often and as commonly spoken in our house as red beans and rice or seafood gumbo. I knew I was going to have to be diligent about mammograms and self-exams and the annual checkup with the gynecologist, because I didn't want to have the same horrific conversation with my doctor that my sweet, precious grandmother had with her own. And I think I was okay with doing that extra work because I didn't, and I still don't, ever want to have cancer. But nobody does, right? I know my mom's oldest sister, JoJo, she didn't want cancer, but she didn't have a say-so. She was 36 years old when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. Her oldest daughter, my first cousin Heather, was only 26 years old when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. She didn't have a say-so either. And then something miraculous happened. And that's exactly how my family thinks of this, a miracle. The same oncologist who took care of my cousin down in New Orleans called my family just a few years ago and told us about a simple blood test, the BRAC analysis, that would inform the rest of us truly of our risk for developing breast or ovarian cancer. And being the rowdy or enthusiastic bunch that we are, once we found out more details, 12 of my family members immediately decided to go and get tested. Out of the 12 that were tested, 7 found out they were positive, while 5 got the news that they were negative. My mom and 2 of her sisters were all 3 together and one of the first group to actually go and get tested. Mom and Susie immediately found out that they were positive, while Dee Dee, the 3rd sister, found out she was negative. So Mom and Susie said, let's go big or go home. So they decided to go ahead and have double mastectomies and total hysterectomies together at the same time. So Dee Dee cleaned out the bedroom, downstairs bedroom in her home, and let Mom and Susie go to her house for recovery and for recuperation after surgery, and she took care of them. And every day through phone calls and text messages and emails and Facebook updates, I got kind of a daily account of how they were doing and how they were recovering after their pretty horrific invasive surgeries. I don't remember even batting an eye when my mom called to tell me the news that she was positive. I don't remember getting weak in the knees when she told me about the major surgery she was about to undergo. To be quite honest, I didn't know all the details of the BRAC analysis, but I knew this. My mom was not calling to tell me she found a lump. She was not calling to tell me that the doctor had diagnosed a malignancy. My mom was calling to tell me that she was going to get to beat cancer to the punch. And for that, I do remember hanging up the phone and offering up a huge thank you to the universe for this chance. Just 1 year before my mom's surgery, I had given birth to twin boys, Nolan and Becker. And at the time of my mom's surgery, my partner was pregnant with our third son. We were about to have 3 boys in the house under the age of 2. I wanted my mom. No, I needed my mom more than ever before. And the crazy thing is my little sister did too. Because 8 weeks after I had my twin boys, my sister had twin girls. So my mom went from 0 to 4 grandkids in 8 weeks and then added a 5th 14 months later. And I knew my mom more than ever before. Wanted to be around for a long time. I think grandkids can do that to you. So even though I had heard daily accounts of how hard the recovery and the recuperation were from the 2 surgeries, on the day that I walked into Emory University to get my own BRAC analysis done, I wasn't scared, I wasn't nervous. I knew exactly what I was going to do if I tested positive. And I remember sitting down with the genetic counselor there that day and wondering why she was so confused at my confidence. I guess she just didn't understand what my family had gone through, how often the term breast cancer had been spoken in our home. But I never got a chance to explain that to her, because a couple weeks after my testing, I received a phone call and found out that I tested negative. I hung up the phone and I immediately dialed my sister. And when she answered the phone, she said, "Kim, I'm negative." And I replied, "Me too." And we just cried, because the winning streak ends here. Cancer's winning streak ends here. Our babies don't have to worry with this. My babies' babies aren't likely going to one day be talking about me, their own mama, and her battle with cancer. And that's the power in this BRAC analysis. There are no losers when you think about every person that gets tested. There's power in both the folks that are positive and the folks who are negative. The fact is, the BRAC analysis changed the course of history for my family. And for that, I'm forever indebted. My family's forever indebted. And I have a story to tell that I tell as often and as loudly as I can to anyone who wants to hear, because someday that person may end up talking to another doctor, another oncologist, who just might pick up the phone and call another family, like that oncologist in New Orleans called ours, and a miracle will happen. And that's my story.